Hey guys, I wanted to tell a kind of a quick story about me and my father's experience with Mr. Pete Rose. We went to a card show here in Nashville. They had a big collector show, and they had a bunch of autograph guests, and they're trying to make it like a Southeast regional type show and do it annually. But Pete Rose was there signing. My dad really wanted to. He had never met Pete rose before, and he wanted to go and get an autograph and kind of meet him. So, quick backstory. This is Don Blasingame and Jack Simpson. They are both from Corinth, Mississippi. That's where my dad was raised. He was neighbors with this guy here, Don Blasingame, and this guy lived in the same city, but they always, Don was 5 years older than my father, and Jack was a year older than my dad. They all played ball together growing up. My father is actually hearing impaired. He doesn't speak or hear. And so these two guys, they took my dad under their wings. They taught him how to play ball. They took him to the pool. So my dad was, really good friends with these guys growing up. This guy here was actually the second baseman for the Cincinnati Reds in 62 and was the front runner in 63 until Pete Rose came up in spring training, and they gave Pete the job. So the reason for that is we show up at the show, and we get up for a photo op, and we're near the end of the line, and we get up there, and I tell Mr. Rose, I say, hey, my dad just wanted me to tell you that he grew up playing ball with Don Blasingame. They were neighbors, and Pete's eyes just lit up, and he started saying, oh man, he was such a good ball player, and he was good to me. He was one of the few guys on the team so I didn't know. So I went back and started reading some stories about how the Reds locker room was divided, blacks and whites, and the blacks accepted Pete because the whites didn't like Pete because he was cocky and arrogant. And the coach had asked I guess, I don't know if this was common practice, but the coach asked all the players at the end of spring training, out of the young guys, who should make the team. And out of all the guys, the veterans, the only person that chose Pete Rose was Don Blasingame. And eventually, of course, Pete took his job. So, but he had stories, and it was kind of cool because they kind of, if you've been to these shows, they shuttle you along, they kind of push you along, and he just sat and talked to my dad, and they fist bumped, and they communicated really well, even though there's my dad's hearing impaired, and there's a communication barrier there. He was such a class act to my father that I'd heard all these stories about him. Man, I have a whole new respect for him. Class act. So we go around, we get the picture, because my dad wants to have the actual picture of him and Pete signed. So you got to do that, and you circle back around for autographs. We get back to the table, and we're in line beside the NSYNC line for a couple NSYNC guys, and my dad, it's always, I don't know what it is, I guess it's him being deaf and communicating with his hands. The girls in line loved my dad. He was he's elderly, so I push him around in the chair, and he hams it up. I mean, he loves the attention. And so, all these NSYNC girls, he's communicating with them. And so we get back up to the table for Pete to sign it again. Once again, we're towards the end of the line. And Pete Rose is pretty funny. He starts telling my dad, I could hear you flirting with them girls all the way over here. And, that's a pretty good ways back. So he noticed. I mean, I don't know. I just think it was a class act and cool. And he sat there and he just communicated with my dad again for another couple of minutes. And usually, from my experience, they just shuttle you on through, and nobody really pushed us out of the way. It seemed genuine. I have a whole new respect for Pete Rose. And the cool thing is when he was signing the autograph, they were, fist bumping, grabbing hands, and, kind of communicating. And there was a police officer there, I guess a security, and she had gotten her phone out and took several pictures and a video of that encounter. And I didn't know she had done it. And then so as we left Pete's table, she walked up to me and she said, hey, if you don't mind, can I get your phone number? I want to send this to you. And she sent it to me, and it's pretty incredible. So I just wanted to share that. I've heard all these stories about how much of a jerk he is, and that's the first time I'd ever met him, and he is now actually one of my favorites of all time. I love him. I had such a good encounter, me and my father did. And yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys. And my one Pete Rose card I have, it's 75 tops and an 8. But obviously now I'm going to be searching out some more because of that. All right, I wanted to share that with you guys. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.